Good morning, YouTube. It's tough out there financially for Americans right now. It's not like a political thing.
Right.
And the numbers don't lie. One big news story was credit card debt. It topped $1 trillion for Americans for the first time ever.
Do you have credit card debt right now? It's awful.
Yeah, this house stuff. I'm still, even though
Yeah.
it's mostly done, I'm
Right.
still paying it all down. But in 2008, it spikes, of course, with the recession.
Right.
Right now, it's $1 trillion, which,
What?
even though we don't consider this a recession or a great recession, some people do, some people don't. It was a pretty obvious recession in 2008, but right now, it's very different. Of course,
Right.
the cost of food. The other one is wealth for Americans versus their income. And so say you make $100,000 a year,
Right.
then your wealth at 100% would be, I have $100,000
Sure.
in net worth. And that's currently way down, like way, way down. So like 55 to 64-year-olds where they're getting close to retirement,
Right.
they're at like 250% versus 400% back in 2007.
Like
The
when
number
you
just
say
keeps going down.
400%, what does that mean?
So if they made $100,000 a year,
Yeah.
then they had on average $400,000 in wealth. So if they made $100,000 a year, they
Right.
had $400,000 in wealth, whether it be home equity, retirement savings, everything. And now that number is $250,000 as they're 55 to 64 years
Right.
old. You look at the graph at 25 to 34-year-olds, it's like at the bottom, it's like it's zero.
There, yeah.
It's like nothing.
Right.
And
That's
yeah,
tough.
of course, as you get older, you make more money, but
Right.
the graph looks really sad for the last 15 years as far as people being able to accumulate
Yeah.
a nest egg.
Well, it's gone down.
Well,
because
it's gone way down.
everything's gotten really, really, really expensive.
Very expensive. So when it comes to cars, there is a recent trend that's pretty alarming. Car Edge is reporting on this right now, where 1 in 3 drivers are now underwater on their car loans.
Do you know how sickening that would be to be underwater on a car? Like I get sometimes it happens with your house and real estate values, but like for a car, when you're underwater on a car.
Right.
Awful.
That's 31% of Americans who have financed are underwater in their car loans in 2024.
Oh,
so
I mean,
you're
the
driving down the
interest
road.
rates are insane.
Right. Well, that's contributing to it.
I felt like gross because my Bronco, I had like 7 or 8% interest rate. And
Yes.
I have better credit than
Yes.
Tyler Richard Hoover.
And you
okay?
sold your house,
Right.
and you were able to pay it off.
Right.
I have a new mortgage on this thing, and it's so many thousands of dollars a month on this house.
It's ridiculous.
And less than 1,000 of it goes to interest. And I got at the absolute worst time. It's at 7%. Is when I got that.
Why? Like people
It's 2
are
months
getting
ago, and
rich
now
for no reason. Why are these interest rates so high? Who's pocketing
Well,
this money? What's the point?
it's the
I
Fed
don't
and the
get
markup
it.
and all that stuff. But yeah, now if I'd done it now, it'd be at 6%. 2 months later, I got at the absolute worst time. If I had to refinance again, it needs to get a little lower for it to make sense. But I bought my mortgage at the absolute peak,
did,
unfortunately. So yeah, even worse, if you have an EV, it's 46% of EV drivers with a loan, they are upside down on it.
EVs were very expensive, still are very expensive, and the values just go way down. So I can see why you're underwater right away, right when you drive it off a lot. Those are the worst criminals of that.
Right, and like Tesla is a big cause of that because their prices used have just plummeted, and that's from Elon himself slashing the prices of the cars. So people who are paying a bunch, and then the MSRP gets slashed. It's one
Right.
thing where dealers do a rebate or incentives and things. Tesla doesn't do that, so they're like, oh, these cars aren't selling. We're just going to lower the price $5,000,
Right.
and boom.
But what's the point of a rebate? Why can't you just discount it right out of the gate? Like, why do you have to make it a game into this rebate
Well,
thing?
because they want as much money as they possibly can, so they start at full sticker.
Right.
So say that Silverado EV that we just reviewed, for example, $97,000 full sticker. Holy crap. You got to really, really want it to buy one of those. And that is the launch edition. That's the first edition with every single thing lined up on there.
Right.
So then they'll come up with the normal one, like the Cybertruck. They're coming up with the non-foundation series now, starting to take orders for it
Right.
at $30,000 less, I think.
What? I thought you
It's
said
$20,000 or
$30,000.
$30,000 less.
Okay.
So when that happens, there'll be the next line of buyers that are willing to step a pony up to that. And then it sort of becomes old news.
Right.
And then they'll have to introduce a $2,000 rebate or a $5,000 rebate, 0% for 60 months, 72. Then you save a bunch on the financing.
Right.
It's the normal game. It's just very expensive with EVs. It just seems a lot crazier than it used to be. Trucks even back in 2007 when I was selling trucks, there were $50,000, $60,000 trucks,
Right.
fully loaded, and we'd be able to discount them 10 grand with rebates
Did you
and
ever
0% financing.
like have someone with terrible credit and their interest rate's crazy, and you're trying to convince them not to buy a car that you were selling?
No, I was selling
'Cause
cars.
you knew that they were going to be
No,
underwater in a
no.
minute.
No, I mean, I had the first person I ever walked up and talked to. I told this story before,
Right.
where they traded in a truck at $10,000 in equity and just auto approved.
Right.
And they bought the truck full sticker. I knew when they drove off, they were losing
Yeah.
$20,000 the moment they drove off. But it was my first sale. I made $1,500. I bought
Right.
bought a TV at Ultimate Electronics, which
Big screen.
that was
but-
very expensive. Now that TV 50-inch plasma screen that was $1,500 is $200 now.
Probably, yeah.
Hopefully that happens with EVs, but right now they're very expensive.
Right.
So 1 in 3 drivers that are financed are upside down driving their newer cars.
Right.
So you see someone in a Kia Telluride or a Hyundai Palisade or a Ford Bronco, they're stuck in it.
Ooh, yeah.
But more than half of them, when they surveyed them, they overestimated their car's value.
Okay.
So they
like
weren't
them
realistic.
Personally.
And we're talking by more than $5,000. So they surveyed these people, what do you think your car is worth? And they gave a number, what? $5,000 more than the retail.
People do that all
not
the
just
time.
traded.
Like when you're selling your home and the realtor's like, I would go here. Everyone thinks that there's more value because they have that invested interest in their own thing.
Well, apparently this is way worse than normal.
Yeah.
For the most part, people will come in and negotiate and go with that high number. But now there's more people that honestly believe, since they paid that much for it, and they think that it's still worth a lot.
Right.
So they're stuck. So people are coming in with their trade-ins. They're upside down, or the price is so low to them that it's crazy.
Right.
So
well, maybe they're stuck back in the COVID days where those used car prices did jump up surprisingly a lot.
right, there was an expectation that cars will gain in value, which unless it's a collector car and you time it really, really perfect, like 1 in a million with my Countach,
Right.
it won't.
Right.
It won't. So car dealers are really, really having a hard time right now getting deals done, getting things closed, because it is so rough. The buyers are stuck, or their expectations are so unrealistic that they can't get deals done.
Right.
And for this YouTuber, I'm having a really hard time buying cars.
You really?
Really hard time.
Because you're just all day long searching and searching. I feel like you would know where to find exactly a cheap car.
It's frustrating. So
Yeah.
I look for fun, and I would have I'd be spoiled for choice as far as hoopties. Now I'm not. I'm just struggling. Like, I won't stop until I find a car that is worth buying.
I mean,
and I'll go all night and I can't find anything.
Now everything's on. All the auctions are online. Cars and Bids kind of just like pushed that to the limit. Do you think everyone's gotten the memo where they're all just getting up these hoopties and they're getting to them before you do?
No, because they're being offered for sale at auction on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, and then you'll see reserve not met. The most recent one, I think I told you about this. I tell her about most of them. A 2006 Mercedes CL55 AMG, and it's one of 55 IWC, sort of the watch edition models.
Oh, yeah.
And so it had a special paint, it has special wheels. Look at the interior, weird colored interior.
That's cool.
And it has the clock, but it has 80,000 miles.
Right.
It has rock chips, scratches. It has the wrong wheels. It doesn't have the watch, which the watch is very expensive. Like, it looked at $6,000. So it's not worth that much more than a normal used CLS 55.
But the owner put the reserve on there.
The owner put the reserve on it.
Now,
So
is there, like, when you go to Cars and Bids or Bring a Trailer, like, is there someone that says you can't set the reserve that high?
So they're supposed to cultivate the reserve. So if there's somebody that's just ridiculous, then they tell them no.
Right.
Or if it's a really, really amazing car, they'll say yes just to have the exposure on the site, even though there's no chance of it ever bringing the reserve.
Got it.
But
so if this were yours, what would you put the reserve
well,
at?
I was the high bidder.
What would you put the reserve at, though?
I would have thought $12,000, $13,000. And I bid a little bit more.
Right.
And I jumped the bid $1,000 increments because he said he was a long ways away from the reserve. And I thought, okay, even though it's a cheap car and they're bidding in the hundreds, I went up $1,000 each time I bid to $15,000. And then everybody quit bidding. And he wanted $7,000 more.
And there's no watch with it.
There's no watch with it. So he thinks that this car that he's owned for a long time, that he's driven to 80,000 miles and beat up pretty well, is worth almost double a normal CLS 55 AMG.
Right.
But it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. You can look, and there's perfect ones that have sold in the 40s a long time ago. But I'm talking like low mileage,
Right.
where a CLS 50, it didn't make any sense at all.
No.
And I'm finding if I want to find something that's like a mild project or something with a cool story, I know I'm going to lose the moment I buy it. My Challenger Hellcat,
Right.
$26,000. That's the cheapest Hellcat. I knew I was going to lose before I even saw the car. The
Really?
moment I clicked the button, I knew. It was a really cool story. The fact that it had 4 accidents.
Yeah.
They've been trying to sell that car for 6 months,
Right.
waiting for some sucker to come along. And I kept,
When is it going to be done?
Well,
you got a wide body kit for it?
I haven't announced that on my YouTube
Sorry.
channel yet, but thank you. You got the scoop
Sorry.
there. The engine's basically, it had the Hemi tick and needs to be torn down, completely
Yeah.
redone, and it's been in 4 accidents.
Okay.
But you go online and you look at the wholesale auctions, and I was watching a video with Dan Normal Guy Supercar,
Yeah.
and their inventory, they got 4 or 5 cars when they like to have 10 to 15 just because they cannot buy anything.
Yeah.
And then when they list things for sale, retail,
Right.
they just get the hell beat out of them. We're in a weird space right now where cars aren't selling retail because they're too expensive, but then individual owners won't cut them loose because they're stuck
Right.
in them or just unrealistic.
They're holding on to those COVID prices.
It's just a very constipated car market right now. Something needs to happen with some X-Lax to where it can just explode, just shard all over, and cars can just start moving again. Because right now it's just not moving, and it's making me constipated, very uncomfortable, and stressed out because nothing can be bought.
You sound like you're in junior high right now. Fart jokes. But I get it. You're frustrated.
It's
I
very
completely
frustrating.
Understand.
It's very, very frustrating.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? A lot of times when you're the high bidder, they'll email you back and try to sell it to
Right.
you anyway. But
Yeah.
that didn't happen in this case.
They did.
Right?
I want $7,000 more.
Crazy. Did you
No, thank
negotiate
you.
with him?
No,
or
I
you just left it?
I came up to 16.
Right.
And that's way too much.
Yeah.
I had to find the wheels. I have to fix the car. I'm sure it's going to have some issues. It's just, I love the CLS because the first time I saw one, it was at a car show in Wichita, like the new Wichita car show. I don't think they do it anymore.
Right.
Inside of the convention center. And they had the CLS just came out. And they put it behind velvet rope. They didn't want people to come up to it. And it was, the first sedan coupe kind of thing. Just a really cool design. And I thought, man, that's so neat.
Right.
And then CLS 55. I love that engine, even though the one we had in the G-Wagon crapped.
Yeah.
Speaking of crapping itself.
Yes.
Yeah, it was consuming oil. But I just thought it'd be a really neat thing to have. But I'm not paying double what a normal CLS goes for that.
Do you feel like this guy was insulted when you were negotiating
So
with him?
he said in the comments, and this was a little weird when it didn't meet reserve. He said, "I feel like a parent with the ugly kid no one wants to play with. Thanks, y'all." And then followed up and said, "That was meant sarcastically. It was fun and exciting." So I don't know. He's owned it for a long time. He doesn't want to cut it loose, and I'm seeing that with the higher end cars, where the peak in 2022 on a Carrera GT or so many other, they want that price, and they don't want to take this price.
Right.
And so they just don't move on either end. People just
Well,
sit.
I get it. You're holding out hope. You want the value to go up again, and you're just waiting for that moment that it does. It's like playing the stock market.
Yeah, but I have to sell cars because I have to
Yeah.
pay bills. So yeah, I'm selling them all no reserve. It's on cars and bids, and whatever they bring. I'm sure I'm going to get my kicked. I've been talking
We'll
about things
see.
in the back end a lot. So thank you so much for watching.